His ex-girlfriend cheated but claims he is her baby's father, and now she is seeing his sister. My 18-year-old son learned that one of his ex-girlfriends is 8 months pregnant. He hadn't realized she was pregnant until now, and he was expected to accept everything without question. My daughter, who is 20, is good friends with this girl and knew about her pregnancy, but she didn't tell us because her friend told her not to. My son adored this lady. However, she ended up breaking his heart by cheating on him and being too clingy and manipulative. He spent a lot of money on her, because she would beg for gifts that my son couldn't afford and encouraged him to use one of my credit cards to purchase them. My daughter, who is not now living with us but is rooming with this girl near her college, is likewise being manipulated by her and believes she only does good. She does not believe she persuaded her brother to use my credit card, or that she cheated. She appeared at my house with my son's ex-girlfriend to tell us she was pregnant. When I saw her standing at my door, visibly pregnant, I knew she was about to inform me that my son was the father of her child. And I instantly indicated that my son will not give any money or time until a paternity test proves that it is his child. My son was genuinely supportive and agreed. My daughter was outraged by my response and accused me of pushing him to become a deadbeat father. She was also upset that I did not give them the opportunity to defend themselves. My son's ex burst into tears, saying that you always believe the worst of me, that she went through 8 months of pregnancy alone, and that the least we could do was ensure her well-being for the sake of his child. I agree if it's his child. We'll make sure she's doing well so that baby is healthy. But I don't want my son to become involved with her only to have his heart shattered and realize that the child isn't his. Am I the jerk here? As a quick update, my daughter and I spoke on the phone and I reminded her that if the baby is actually his, the text will just reaffirm his responsibility to the child, and that I would never encourage my son to abandon any of my grandchildren. My daughter ultimately agreed that the test would be good and promised to contact me again later. I received a text instead of a phone call asking if they could come over to talk, which I agreed to. And when they arrived, my son's ex admitted to not knowing who the father was and that she had been in multiple relationships, which is why she took so long to notify my son, because she was attempting to determine who the child's father was. But she is immediately persuaded it is my son. She promised to conduct the paternity test as soon as we were able to do so, provided that I pay for it. Another thing I discovered was that my daughter and my son's ex had begun a romantic relationship, which utterly shocked me. That explains why she has been so supportive of my son's ex, but I did not anticipate my daughter to do this. I mean, it is her brother's ex, the one who broke his heart. It's simply not something I understand. I will always cherish my daughter, but it hurts me to see my son so distraught about the whole situation. So am I wrong here? Well, this is just a mess. You and your kid are quite correct in requesting that she prove it is his. It's only right. I'm not sure your daughter would be willing to raise the child if she and her ex are romantically involved. That would be a really unusual family arrangement, and if the paternity test is positive, your son must do his part by paying child support. Unfortunately, he is so young, and his girlfriend looks to have mistreated him and everyone else she is engaged with. Sure, I'll keep my dinners under $30 as is the policy. I'll make sure it costs $30 every single time. For reference, this was written in 2021. My job demands me to fly in, out, and travel regularly. When I'm on site, I'm usually so focused with work, or I'm stationed somewhere with food alternatives I don't want to waste my calories on, that I don't eat anything for the entire day and instead get a coffee. Our employee cost policy at work is $30 per day, which is often acceptable. However, there are certain high cost of living areas, and my meals occasionally surpass that policy because there aren't many options, especially if I want to eat properly, which is crucial when you're always on the road. They haven't reopened yet, so there aren't many options beyond fast food. So I submit my expenses 1 month, and I've gone $1.50 above the daily limit because I treated myself to a coffee and a meal that morning because I was fatigued from the god-awful early flight. The company's policy was recently revised, and expenses are now approved by a separate set of people. Previous passengers didn't mind going over by a few bucks because it offset trips where I didn't eat anything. But this new organization is a stickler, and they disputed the expense, stating I had gone over the daily limit. I tried to explain that I hadn't eaten anything in the prior 10 visits that month, but they wouldn't budge. It definitely left an unpleasant taste in my mouth. Now, with each visit, I force myself to spend as close to $30 as possible because screw them. My husband is happy since it means I can now bring back slightly squished but free dinners for him. I feel bad about wasting food, yet I frequently buy a meal, eat a few bites, and then throw it away. However, the daily spending limit is $30, and I want to stick to it today. I used to bill $100 for the entire month since I didn't eat, but now I bill twice or 3 times as much. I used to push myself to work all day, but now I take my 30 minutes to go grocery shopping, which means they get 30 minutes less work from me, and another productive and cost-saving employee has turned sour and expensive. In this sense, it refers to using as much of the company's time and money as possible to spite them. Congratulations, penny-pinching bosses, you did it again. All because you couldn't let your hard-working employee have a cup of coffee. What will you think of? Next, I don't see myself going to all that trouble just to get back at someone. However, it is difficult to label the author a jerk when she is merely receiving something she is entitled to under business policy on a daily basis. I am not sure how much pressure the expenditures folks were under to keep staff inside budget. To be honest, if they were under pressure from higher-ups, I can't blame them. But what if they just decided that defrauding a good employee out of $30 for exceeding the budget by $1 was the hill they wanted to die on? Not cool. And huge jerks. If you loved Am I the Jerk, you will most likely enjoy Am I the Genius? Check out the URL provided below. If you want to add your own stories, go to amythejerk.com and click the Submit button. Is it wrong that I revealed my ex's sexual orientation in order to get his mother to stop pestering me? It is a long and terrible story, but my soon-to-be ex-husband is gay and has kept it from me. I found out when I caught him cheating, and he freely admitted that he was not attracted to me in that way. But he wanted children and a normal life. I do not mind that he is gay, but I will never forgive him for taking advantage of me in order to have children. So it's over. This marks the end of the story. The problem is that, with the exception of a few people, his family is religious zealots, and his mother is the invasive mother-in-law from hell. Another huge advantage of leaving is that I'm no longer related to her. His family does not believe in divorce, so when I was picking up my ex's documents and other belongings, she confronted me about how I was acting childishly and how marriage is about commitment, forgiveness, and problem-solving. It became evident that my ex did not tell his family that he had cheated. He notified his mother that I was divorcing him because we were not doing it often enough for me. I tried to be patient and explained that he had cheated, so I wouldn't go into further detail. Because I realize how his parents behave, and it is none of their business. I kid you not, my mother-in-law suggested that boys are just that way, and that if I wanted to perform the deed more and keep him from straying, I should make myself more enticing to my husband and be a better wife. At the time, I had completely forgotten the story. It had been a dreadful, stressful day, and this was the last straw. Here's where I may be a jerk. I told her that the only thing that would make me more appealing to my ex was a sex change, and that I hoped he and his boyfriend would adopt her grandchildren so she could finally stop talking about it. It wasn't my best moment, but she hit the hardest and rawest nerve she could, and I exploded. It has certainly turned into a major family drama. He's probably going to be disowned, and my ex called, sobbing that I'd ruined his life out of spite. I am not sure how I feel about it. I feel bad for him since his parents are such awful people, and there were no good outcomes for him, but I also believe he made his own bed in this scenario. To clarify some points. 1. There was almost no risk of violence. His family are fundies, but not the violent kind. They are more opposed to Mormonism. One of his cousins came out of the closet and left the church, and after the initial shock, they all stopped talking to him and treated him as if he were dead until he was ready to repent or whatever. They are passive-aggressive, repressed, and strange as hell, but I don't believe anyone will physically harm him. He is not financially dependent on them and has a successful career, so even if they force him out, he will be able to sustain himself. Second, he knew he was gay long before I met him, so this wasn't a new finding or an admission to himself. He has a boyfriend whom he has been dating for 6 months before we married. I checked through his computer after finding them in the act and forcing him out, and I found him logs and other evidence from before he started dating me. He honestly planned everything so that he could appear to have a good Mormon family while keeping his own family happy. That's it. He never loved me. I was the first girl to express a persistent curiosity. As an update, Lord knows I never imagined this would happen to me. But some people have asked how things were doing, and there aren't many places where I can openly explain what's going on for obvious reasons. So I decided this would be a great way to empty my mind while also enlightening anyone who was interested. By the way, I respect everyone's different points of view. I'm quite conflicted about the situation. It's helpful to understand other people's viewpoints and values on the subject. I don't trust my intelligence right now, but posting this and reading the answers has helped me find some peace and move forward. Following the event involving my ex's mother-in-law, I have finally had radio silence from his immediate family. So that's a relief. I work in the same building as a couple of his extended family members, so I still need to see them, but they haven't taken it up. They're all aware that they can only contact me through my lawyer now. And everything important that belonged to my ex has already been passed down, so everything else can now be directed to the legal department. I should not have to interact with them, yet it is tough to avoid people in a small town. My ex attempted to break into my house while I was at work on the day I posted the story, so I filed charges. I'm not sure how it will play out or why he's doing this when it will just get him in more problems, but I'll leave it to my lawyer and the cops. I'm staying with my family for a while till I feel safe. I'm not sure what happened to him or his family, and I don't want to find out. My ex and, I assume, his family spread rumors about me prior to the confrontation with the mother-in-law, which has made life in this little town tough. It's a little village, and people treat me differently now. The local stake president has been supportive, and after learning of the cheating without mention of orientation, he mentioned that he would try to assist with the rumors. I don't want to leave the neighborhood, but I believe I may have to, at least temporarily, until the legal concerns are handled. My lawyer and I have decided to apply for annulment, which will take less time and be more difficult to contest in this situation. Hopefully the ex will not dispute it. I'm glad we never pooled our accounts. There won't be too many shared assets to deal with. I'll be well financially though. This could have been much worse if I had been a stay-at-home mom or whatever. I intend to start therapy soon. I was considering leaving even before this all came to light, because I had been unhappy with the way things were going in my marriage for some time. I don't want to lose any more of myself or my time, and I'm hoping to feel good enough to start dating again soon. Right now I'm unsure. Even thinking about it hurts. I wanted to address a few things mentioned in responses to the post. I am a Mormon, but have been inactive for much of my life. I don't want to paint the entire Latter-day Saints church with this brush. My ex and his family are not typical, but I know there are others like them out there. Please don't draw conclusions about gay people based on this tale either. There are LGBTQ individuals close to my heart who would never do this to anyone. I don't believe that outing people is generally acceptable, else I wouldn't feel so bad about anything. My ex's family put this up due to their bigotry. I wish none of this had happened to either me or him. The conclusion, I suppose, is to avoid outing people whenever feasible, even if some individuals believe it was justifiable given the circumstances. It's not good and doesn't feel right. My name is now clearer, and I am no longer bothered directly by his family, but that is all. Now I need to figure out the next step. This is another highly messy one, but I feel the author's closing statements provide the best advice anyone can give. Outing someone removes what should be a very personal and private component of their lives and, in some cases, puts their lives in danger. However, we don't know how long the mother would have continued to intrude in this woman's life if she hadn't divulged that element of her husband's infidelity. Regardless of his role in this circumstance, I feel sad for the man. He was clearly under a lot of pressure to conform, and based on what I've heard from this family and community, his social life may have been completely disrupted. If he has a good, qualified job, it's easy to propose that he go work somewhere else with his boyfriend, but having to uproot and leave the life you've always known is a dreadful thing. So, while there are some jerks here, religious fundamentalism is the main antagonist. Also, the mother is nasty. Imagine learning that a female family member has been cheated on and encouraging her to do more to keep her partner from cheating as frequently. It's incredibly twisty. Would I be a jerk if I refused to attend my sister's wedding because I couldn't bring my girlfriend as a +1? So I'm a lesbian and have been with my boyfriend for almost 2 years. My family, including my sister, accepts my homosexuality and supports our relationship. Her betrothed, on the other hand, hails from a religiously conservative family. And while he is wonderful, his extended family is quite traditional and anti-gay. My sister presented me my invitation in person rather than mailing it, and she informed me that I would not be bringing a +1 because having a gay couple at the wedding would undoubtedly cause problems with this side of the family. All of my other siblings have +1s and are welcome to bring their straight partners. I understand where she is coming from, but it still seems like a slap in the face. I am not going to try to force her to give me a +1, but I am seriously considering not going. I adore my sister, but I'm not comfortable spending the entire day alone, whilst my other siblings are allowed to bring their spouses, merely because my sister wishes to appease a group of bigots. I haven't informed anyone yet, but if I stay home, would I be a jerk? Of course it's their wedding and their decision, but I believe the happy couple is more likely to be the jerks in this case, because they did not just warn the family that there would be people from many walks of life at the wedding, and that if they want to come, they must set aside their limited worldviews. Your sister and brother-in-law will be even bigger jerks if they hold it against you for not turning up. Yeah, let's just say that it will be a point against them if they accept your absence from the situation, but they'll be gigantic burning pieces of garbage if they require you to present but don't let you bring the person you love. It's a difficult circumstance, and I hope your family can get through it without too much stress. Personally, I believe they merely advise the in-laws to ignore their terrible racism for a day. Am I a jerk for returning the money my spouse stole from my relatives in exchange for their attendance at our cookout? For reference, my spouse comes from a wealthy family and has gotten a number of assets from relatives. One of them is the enormous house where we currently reside, which includes a pool and a large backyard with numerous attractions. We decided to host our first barbecue 7 months after getting married, inviting both his and my families. That was on Friday. Both families arrived and we had a terrific time before they went. My mother called me, and she didn't sound well. She inquired whether my family had collected money from his relatives before attending the cookout. I was perplexed, so I asked what she was talking about, and she said that my husband had paid $25 to each individual on my side of the family who attended the event. I was shocked and furious, and I felt that this had really impacted my connection with the majority of my family, as almost all of them had come over. Not only that, but he got $275 from them. I was outraged, so I hung up the phone and addressed him right away. He told me that my family enjoyed the space and landscape, and that I should treat it like a resort cookout because his place has so many amenities. I told him it was a horrible thing to do. What made matters worse was that his family did not pay, although mine had to. He laughed and explained that his family had given him this house. I asked he return the money, but he refused, claiming he wouldn't even give it to me because the house is officially his. I went and took the money, returning it to everyone who had paid, along with my deepest apologies. My spouse found out and raged at me, describing what I did as an overstep and disrespectful. I told him he shouldn't have taken money from my family because they were guests at our house, but he corrected me, saying it was his house, and that he bet my family had never had the opportunity to attend a cookout at a house like this for only $25. But I disrespected him by going behind his back and taking money that wasn't mine. We stopped talking after that, and he still complains to his mother about my taking his money, which he earned on his own. Is he a jerk? Don't worry, jerky husband is here. You should be terrified because of this. What a piece of rubbish. Trying to run a business out of your family is a dubious and unethical strategy. Look, if you're not doing well financially, you can surely let people know that a monetary contribution would be greatly appreciated. However, holding such an event while concealing the fact that attendees must pay until after the event is plain repulsive. And then he doubles down on his bizarre, twisted logic, claiming that they should pay for the privilege of living in your far more luxurious estate than their poor butts could afford.